My husband cheated with a coworker while I raised our daughter. I divorced him, rebuilt my life, and started dating again. Now he regrets everything. I met Mike 10 years ago when we were both working at a local bookstore called the Reading Nook. It was my first job out of college, and I was excited to be surrounded by books all day. Mike had been working there for a few years already and was known for his encyclopedic knowledge of literature. I was instantly drawn to his quick wit and passion for books. Our first interaction was over a debate about the merits of classic versus contemporary literature. I argued passionately for the relevance of modern authors, while Mike defended the timeless themes of the classics. What started as a heated discussion soon turned into a friendly banter that lasted well past our shift. From that day on, we found ourselves gravitating towards each other during work hours, stealing moments to discuss our latest reads or recommend books to each other. As weeks turned into months, our friendship deepened. We bonded over our shared love of obscure poets and our mutual dream of writing a novel someday. Mike would leave little notes with book quotes in my locker, and I'd surprise him with his favorite coffee during early morning shifts. Our coworkers often teased us about our obvious chemistry, but we insisted we were just good friends. It wasn't until the store's annual Christmas party that things shifted between us. We ended up under the mistletoe, and after a moment of awkward laughter, Mike leaned in and kissed me. It was soft and sweet, and it felt like all the fictional romances I'd read about suddenly came to life. After that night, we officially started dating. Our relationship blossomed quickly. We spent our days off exploring used bookstores in neighboring towns, attending poetry readings, and having picnics in the park where we'd read to each other. Mike introduced me to his passion for hiking, and I shared my love for old black and white films. We complemented each other perfectly. His calm demeanor balanced my more excitable nature, while my optimism helped lift his occasional bouts of melancholy. 2 years into our relationship, Mike proposed in the most fitting way possible. He organized a scavenger hunt through the bookstore, leaving clues in some of our favorite books. The final clue led me to the poetry section, where I found him on one knee, holding a vintage copy of Pride and Prejudice with a ring nestled inside. Of course, I said yes. We got married 6 months later in a small, literary-themed ceremony. Our vows included quotes from our favorite love stories, and our centerpieces were made of old books. It was a magical day, filled with love and the promise of a beautiful future together. The first few years of our marriage were like a dream. We both pursued our careers. I became a high school English teacher, while Mike landed a job at a small but respected publishing house. We supported each other's dreams and enjoyed building our life together. We bought a cozy little house with a room dedicated to our ever-growing book collection. Weekends were spent renovating our home, trying new recipes, and dreaming about our future family. 5 years into our marriage, we decided to start trying for a baby. We were both excited about the prospect of becoming parents and sharing our love of literature with a child. It took a few months, but I finally got pregnant. Those 9 months were filled with anticipation and joy. Mike was incredibly supportive, attending every doctor's appointment, reading parenting books, and even talking to my belly every night. Our daughter Emma was born on a crisp autumn morning. Holding her for the first time, I felt a love I had never experienced before. Mike was overjoyed, and seeing him cradle our daughter made my heart swell. We were thrilled to start this new chapter of our lives. However, becoming parents was a huge adjustment for both of us. The sleepless nights and constant demands of a newborn put a strain on our relationship. Mike started working longer hours at the office, saying he needed to prove himself to get a promotion. I was left handling most of the childcare and household responsibilities on top of my teaching job. As Emma grew, so did the distance between Mike and me. Our conversations, once filled with discussions about books and dreams, now revolved around diaper changes and baby schedules. Date nights became a rare occurrence, and when we did manage to go out, we were often too tired to really connect. We argued more frequently, usually about Mike not being home enough or not helping out more with Emma. I felt overwhelmed and underappreciated, while Mike seemed frustrated and distant. The romantic gestures that once defined our relationship, the surprise notes, the spontaneous hugs, slowly faded away. When Emma was about 18 months old, I noticed Mike becoming even more distant and distracted. He was constantly on his phone, smiling at text messages. When I asked who he was texting so much, he'd brush it off saying it was just work stuff. My gut told me something wasn't right, but I tried to push away my suspicions. I didn't want to believe that the man who had once quoted love poems to me could be hiding something. I tried to reignite the spark in our marriage. I arranged for my parents to watch Emma so Mike and I could have a weekend getaway. I surprised him with tickets to a book reading by an author he admired. I even started leaving him little notes again, reminiscent of our early days. But Mike seemed preoccupied and unappreciative of my efforts. Things came to a head last month on our 8th wedding anniversary. Mike had promised to take the day off work so we could spend it together. I had planned a special day for us: breakfast at our favorite cafe, a visit to the bookstore where we met, and dinner at the restaurant where we had our first date. I was hopeful that this day would help us reconnect. That morning, as I was getting Emma ready for daycare, Mike got a call from the office about some emergency and said he had to go in for a few hours. I was disappointed but told him I understood. I spent the day with Emma instead, trying not to let my sadness show. Mike didn't come home until late that night. When he walked in, I could smell alcohol on his breath. I confronted him about breaking our plans and staying out drinking. He got defensive and we had a huge fight. In the heat of the moment, I grabbed his phone and looked at his messages. What I saw broke my heart. There were hundreds of texts between Mike and his coworker Jen, 29F. They were clearly more than just friends. The messages were flirty and intimate. There were inside jokes, heart emojis, and plans to meet up for drinks after work. While I didn't see any explicit sexual content, it was obvious they had developed deep feelings for each other. I scrolled through months of messages, feeling sick to my stomach. There were late-night conversations about their hopes and fears, complaints about their respective partners, and promises to always be there for each other. It was like reading the early days of my relationship with Mike all over again, but this time I was the outsider. I confronted Mike about the messages. At first he tried to deny it was anything more than friendship. But when I pressed him, he finally admitted to having an emotional affair with Jen for the past 6 months. He swore nothing physical had happened between them, but said he had developed strong feelings for her. Mike tried to explain that he had been feeling lost and unsure of his place in our family. He said Jen understood him in a way he felt I no longer did. They bonded over their shared love of literature and their career ambitions. He claimed he never meant for it to go this far, but before he knew it, he was deeply emotionally invested in their relationship. I was devastated. This man, who I had built my life with, who I had trusted completely, had betrayed me in one of the worst ways possible. The fact that it wasn't physical almost made it worse. He had given Jen his heart and his mind, the very things I had fallen in love with. Mike begged me to forgive him and promised to end things with Jen immediately. He said he'd been feeling neglected in our marriage and Jen had been there for him emotionally. I pointed out that I'd been feeling neglected too, but I hadn't gone looking for comfort in someone else's arms. I reminded him of all the efforts I had made to reconnect with him, efforts he had brushed aside while he was busy nurturing his relationship with Jen. I told Mike I needed some time and space to process everything. He agreed to stay with his brother for a while. It's been 2 weeks now, and I'm still trying to figure out what to do. Part of me wants to try to work things out for Emma's sake. We had always talked about giving her the kind of loving, stable family neither of us had growing up. The thought of breaking that promise to her breaks my heart. But another part of me feels like the trust is broken beyond repair. How can I ever believe anything Mike says again? How can I not wonder if he's thinking about Jen every time he's quiet or distracted? The thought of him sharing such an intimate emotional connection with another woman makes me feel sick and angry. I don't know if I can ever look at Mike the same way again. The man I married, the one who quoted Shakespeare and left me love notes, seems like a stranger now. At the same time, the idea of breaking up our family terrifies me. I worry about the impact on Emma, about the financial implications, about facing life as a single mother. I find myself replaying our entire relationship in my head, wondering if there were signs I missed. Was I too caught up in being a mother that I neglected being a wife? Should I have pushed harder when I first noticed Mike becoming distant? Or was this inevitable? Was Mike always capable of this kind of betrayal? I could really use some outside perspectives on this situation. Should I try to forgive Mike and work on our marriage? Or is an emotional affair just as much of a deal breaker as a physical one? How do I trust him again if we do try to reconcile? And if I decide to end the marriage, how do I navigate co-parenting with someone who has hurt me so deeply? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their thoughtful advice and support. Reading your comments really helped me gain clarity on the situation. After taking some time to process my emotions, I decided I wanted to at least try to work things out with Mike for Emma's sake. The thought of her growing up in a broken home weighed heavily on me. I remembered my own parents' messy divorce when I was a teenager and how it had affected me. I didn't want Emma to go through that if there was any chance of salvaging our family. I told Mike I was willing to go to marriage counseling if he was truly committed to rebuilding our relationship. He eagerly agreed and promised to do whatever it took to regain my trust. He seemed genuinely remorseful and determined to make things right. We started seeing a counselor twice a week. Dr. Anderson, our therapist, came highly recommended and specialized in helping couples recover from infidelity. In our sessions, we dug into the issues that led to Mike's emotional affair. He admitted to feeling overwhelmed by the responsibilities of fatherhood and turning to Jen for escape and validation. He said he felt like he was failing as a father and a husband, and Jen's admiration made him feel competent and valued again. I opened up about my own feelings of loneliness and resentment over shouldering most of the parenting duties. I talked about how hurt I was that Mike had turned to someone else instead of communicating his struggles with me. We both realized how much we had stopped prioritizing our marriage after Emma was born. The counseling was difficult but eye-opening. We had to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our relationship. There were sessions where we both left feeling drained and raw. But slowly, we started to reconnect and remember why we had fallen in love in the first place. Mike made a lot of promises about being more present as a husband and father. He gave me full access to his phone and email as a gesture of transparency. He also agreed to look for a new job to avoid any contact with Jen. He sent her a final message explaining that he was committed to working on his marriage and couldn't have any further contact with her. At home, Mike started making more of an effort. He took over bedtime duties with Emma, giving me some much-needed time to myself in the evenings. He surprised me with little gestures reminiscent of our early days, leaving me sweet notes, bringing me coffee in bed on weekends. We started having regular date nights again, even if it was just watching a movie together after Emma went to sleep. Things seemed to be slowly improving between us. We were having real conversations again instead of just arguing about chores and schedules. We even started reading together again, something we hadn't done since before Emma was born. I started to feel cautiously optimistic that maybe we could salvage our marriage after all. But then last week, everything fell apart again. I was doing laundry and found a hotel receipt in Mike's pants pocket. The date on it was from 2 weeks ago, right in the middle of our counseling and supposed reconciliation. My heart sank as I realized Mike was still lying to me. All the progress we'd made, all the promises of transparency and honesty, it all felt like a sham. I confronted him about the receipt as soon as he got home from work. Mike broke down crying when I showed him the receipt. He admitted that he'd met up with Jen at the hotel and they'd slept together. He swore it was only that one time and that he regretted it immediately. According to him, Jen had reached out, saying she missed him and wanted to talk. He agreed to meet her, convincing himself it was just to get closure. But one thing led to another, and they ended up sleeping together. I was beyond hurt and angry. I felt like such a fool for believing his promises and thinking we could work things out. Mike had looked me in the eye day after day, promising he was committed to our marriage, all while continuing his affair behind my back. The fact that he had taken it from an emotional to a physical affair made it even worse. I told Mike to pack his bags and get out. He begged me to reconsider, saying it was a moment of weakness and he'd do anything to make it right. He promised to go to individual therapy, to take a leave from work, anything I wanted. But I just couldn't bear to look at him anymore. The trust between us is completely shattered. I'm meeting with a divorce lawyer next week to discuss my options. The thought of ending our marriage is heartbreaking, but I don't see how I can ever trust Mike again after this. I'm terrified of being a single mom, but I know I deserve better than a husband who repeatedly lies and cheats on me. Telling Emma that Daddy wouldn't be living with us anymore was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. She's too young to understand what's really happening, but she knows something is wrong. She's been having tantrums and asking when Daddy is coming home. It breaks my heart to see her hurting like this. I'm trying to stay strong for Emma's sake, but inside I'm falling apart. I alternate between feeling numb and feeling overwhelmed by anger and grief. I've had to take some time off work because I can't focus on teaching when my personal life is in such chaos. My family has been incredibly supportive. My sister Lisa, 35F, has been staying with us to help out with Emma and give me emotional support. My parents, who live a few hours away, have been calling every day to check on me. Their support means the world to me, but it also makes me sad to think about how my own broken family will affect Emma. This isn't how I imagined my life turning out. When Mike and I got married, I truly believed we'd grow old together, surrounded by books and grandchildren. I'm angry at Mike for throwing away our family, but I'm also angry at myself for being so naive. I keep questioning if I could have done something differently, if I could have prevented this somehow. I don't know how I'm going to explain this to Emma when she's older. How do I tell her that her father, the man who used to read her bedtime stories every night, betrayed our family? I just hope I'm making the right decision for both of us in the long run. As I prepare for the difficult road ahead, I find myself turning to books for comfort, just like I always have. I've been rereading some of my favorite novels, finding solace in the stories of resilient women overcoming adversity. I hope that someday, I'll be able to write my own story of healing and new beginnings. But for now, I'm just taking it one day at a time, trying to be the best mother I can be for Emma while I figure out what comes next. Update 2. It's been about 3 months since my last update. The divorce proceedings are underway, and it's been a roller coaster of emotions. After I kicked Mike out, he moved in with his brother temporarily. He kept trying to contact me, sending long apologetic emails and leaving tearful voicemails. At first, I read and listened to them all, part of me still hoping for some explanation that would make everything okay. But as the days went by, I realized that nothing he could say would change what had happened. I started deleting his messages without reading them and blocked his number. Now I only communicate with him through our lawyers about divorce and custody matters. Telling Emma that Daddy wasn't going to live with us anymore was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. She's still too young to fully understand, but she knows something is wrong. She's been having tantrums and nightmares, often waking up crying for her dad. It breaks my heart to see her struggling like this. I found a child therapist to help her process everything. Dr. Martinez specializes in helping young children deal with divorce, and she's been wonderful with Emma. We have weekly sessions, and slowly, I'm seeing some improvement in Emma's behavior. Dr. Martinez has given me strategies to help Emma cope, like maintaining routines and creating a special daddy book with photos and memories she can look at when she misses him. About a month ago, Mike's affair partner Jen reached out to me. She sent me a long email, saying she felt guilty and wanted to apologize. According to her, Mike had told her he was separated and in the process of divorcing me. She claimed she had no idea he was still married and trying to work things out. Jen said she ended things with Mike as soon as she found out the truth about our situation. While I appreciate her coming clean, it doesn't change anything. Mike was the one who made vows to me, not her. And even if she didn't know about me initially, she certainly knew about Emma. The fact that she was willing to get involved with a man she knew had a young child speaks volumes about her character. I've thrown myself into work and taking care of Emma to stay distracted. My students have been a welcome escape. There's something comforting about losing myself in teaching literature and grading papers. My colleagues have been understanding, giving me space when I need it but also including me in after-work gatherings to keep me from isolating myself. My family and friends have been incredibly supportive. My sister Lisa, 35F, has been staying with us to help out with Emma and give me emotional support. She's been a godsend, taking Emma to the park or making dinner when I'm too exhausted to function. My best friend Rachel, 33F, comes over every weekend, armed with ice cream and terrible romantic comedies to keep my spirits up. I don't know how I'd get through this without them. The hardest part has been dealing with Mike's family. His parents are devastated about the divorce and have been pressuring me to give him another chance. They keep saying that breaking up the family will traumatize Emma. Mike's mother Gloria, 60F, even showed up at my house unannounced to lecture me about the importance of forgiveness. She brought up her own parents' divorce and how it affected her, trying to guilt me into reconsidering. I had to firmly tell her that my decision was final and ask her to leave. Financially, things have been tight since the separation. I've had to dip into our savings to cover lawyer fees and therapy costs for Emma. I'm worried about how I'll manage on just my teacher's salary once the divorce is finalized. I've started looking into tutoring or teaching summer school to supplement my income. On the bright side, I've started to have moments where I feel hopeful about the future. I joined a support group for divorced parents, which has been really helpful. Hearing other people's stories of rebuilding their lives after infidelity has given me strength. Some days, I can actually imagine a happy future for myself and Emma that doesn't include Mike. I've also started journaling again, something I used to do religiously before I got married. It's been therapeutic to pour out my thoughts and feelings onto paper. I've even started jotting down ideas for the novel I always dreamed of writing. Who knows, maybe this experience will fuel my creativity in ways I never expected. There are still tough days where the grief and anger overwhelm me. Sometimes I'll come across an old photo or one of Mike's books, and it feels like I'm right back at square one, heartbroken and furious. But these moments are becoming less frequent and less intense. I'm trying to focus on healing and creating a stable, loving home for Emma. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but I'm determined to come out stronger on the other side. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time, cherishing the good moments with Emma and allowing myself to grieve when I need to. I'm learning that it's okay to not be okay all the time, and that healing isn't a linear process. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and a full year since I discovered Mike's affair. I'm happy to report that things have finally started to stabilize in my life. The divorce was finalized last month. It was a surreal experience sitting in the courtroom, listening to the judge declare the end of my marriage. Part of me felt relieved that it was finally over, while another part mourned the death of the future I had once envisioned with Mike. We agreed on joint custody of Emma, with me having primary physical custody. He gets her every other weekend and one weeknight dinner. So far, the arrangement has been working out okay. Emma is slowly adjusting to the new normal, though she still has moments where she gets upset about mommy and daddy not living together anymore. Her therapist says this is normal and that she's actually coping remarkably well for her age. I decided to make a fresh start and move to a new apartment across town. It was bittersweet leaving the home Mike and I had shared, but it feels good to have a space that's just mine and Emma's. My new place is closer to my parents, which has been a huge help with childcare. Mom and Dad have been amazing, picking Emma up from daycare when I have late meetings and showering her with love and attention. The move also gave me the opportunity to redecorate and make the space truly ours. Emma and I had fun picking out new bedding and curtains for her room. I turned the small second bedroom into a cozy reading nook, filled with bookshelves and a comfortable armchair. It's become my sanctuary, a place where I can lose myself in a good book or work on my writing. Financially, things have been tight since the divorce. I had to take on some tutoring jobs in addition to my teaching to make ends meet. But I'm managing, and it feels empowering to be fully independent. I've become quite the budgeting expert, finding creative ways to cut costs without sacrificing too much. Emma and I have discovered that picnics in the park can be just as fun as eating out, and we've started a vegetable garden on our small balcony to save on grocery bills. Mike is still with Jen, which stings a bit. They made their relationship official on social media last month. Seeing photos of them together, looking happy and carefree, brought up a lot of complicated emotions. But I'm working on accepting that they're going to be a part of Emma's life. I've set clear boundaries about Jen's interactions with Emma, which Mike has respected so far. Co-parenting with Mike has its challenges. There are times when old resentments flare up, especially when he's late for pickups or forgets important details about Emma's schedule. But we're both trying our best to put Emma's needs first. We've started using a co-parenting app to manage schedules and communications, which has helped reduce direct conflicts between us. The most unexpected development is that I've started dating again. I was reluctant at first, feeling like I wasn't ready. But my friends encouraged me to put myself out there. I've gone on a few casual dates with a guy named Tom, 34M, who I met through a mutual friend. It's nothing serious yet, but it's nice to feel attractive and wanted again. Tom is a high school history teacher, so he understands the demands of my job. He's also great with Emma, which is a huge plus. I've also rekindled some old friendships that had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. My college roommate Kate, 32F, and I have started having monthly brunches, and I've joined a local book club. It feels good to have a social life again that doesn't revolve around being a wife or mother. I won't lie and say everything is perfect. I still have moments of sadness and anger about how my marriage ended. There are nights when Emma is with Mike that the silence in the apartment feels deafening. And balancing single motherhood with work and a social life is a constant juggling act. But overall, I'm in a much better place than I was a year ago. I'm proud of myself for having the courage to leave a situation that wasn't serving me. I'm focused on being the best mom I can be to Emma and rediscovering who I am as an individual, not just someone's wife. I've even started working on that novel I always dreamed of writing. It's slow going, writing in stolen moments between grading papers and bedtime stories, but it feels incredibly fulfilling. Who knows, maybe someday I'll see my name on the shelves of the bookstore where Mike and I first met. To anyone going through something similar, I want to say, it does get better. Healing isn't linear, and there will be setbacks along the way. But you're stronger than you know. Trust yourself, and don't be afraid to lean on your support system. There is life and happiness on the other side of betrayal and heartbreak. As for me, I'm looking forward to the future with cautious optimism. I don't know what it holds, but I know that Emma and I will face it together, one page at a time.